Welcome to the Xpresso Unicorn discussion on environmental sustainability with Dr. Andrea Peters, Derek Peters, and Matthew McCarthy. We are having this discussion today as a call to action for ourselves and our communities. There are a variety of ways we can positively impact our environment that can lead to cleaner water, healthier soil, the slowing of climate change, and much more. Welcome to the team, and we hope you enjoy the discussion.
This whole quarter, we're talking about environmental sustainability. If you remember the little blurb that I pushed out there in the beginning for the quarter was about why caring about the environment matters and all of that good stuff, right? So if you guys have not seen it, please go on to Spotify and actually look at that. You can share it with people as well. If they don't understand, what we're doing and why we're doing it. That's a great kind of rundown on why Xpresso Unicorn cares about environmental sustainability. Um, we are definitely not where I want to be. Probably about 50% of our products are environmentally sustainable type products, and or they are consciously sourced, right? So based off of the people that are actually putting the products together, as well as the type of products that are being used. And so today, what I really want to do is just do a deeper dive into kind of this space of environmental sustainability, and something that's cool. It was in the ethers, I think, because I was looking for options out there to actually share with you guys. And after we finish this, I will share the Nature Conservatory sustainability guide with you. And it's called Seven Good for Our Planet Steps That Are Easy to Take. Okay. And so I think a lot of times when we talk about environmental sustainability, all those letters in that phrase, right? It makes people believe that this is a daunting thing, and mostly companies are worried about it, and not necessarily day-to-day people. And so where I want to make sure that we have some influence is to help people understand that no, you can make some small changes within your own life that has a huge impact. And as you make those changes, the people in your network will probably start making some of those changes as well. Okay. And so I'm going to hit quickly on what these seven steps are. And it's leave that all or nothing mindset behind, reduce your food waste, choose vacations closer to home, shut down hidden power hogs, eat more plant-based foods, seal up energy stillers within the house. Okay. And we can dive into this a little bit. And then when in doubt, leave it out. Okay. And so that's just something to kind of think about. And then we'll kind of dive into this a little bit more. So Matthew is kind of working on a higher level in this environmental space. So I want to start high level, and then we'll kind of bring it back down. And Derek is also going to give us a little bit of what he has done in his own life to kind of implement this environmental sustainability side of the house. And then what we'll end on tonight is where do we go from here, and how do we get the community moving and in action with what we believe in and what we know is good for the planet. Okay, so Matthew, you got the floor.
Thank you. I'm grateful for that. Yeah, 2 nights ago, I was in Manhattan at a panel discussion for Sustainability Week in New York City, led by The Economist magazine. And The Economist is doing a lot of work around covering what's going on with environment and sustainability. And a couple of different themes I wanted to share with folks on this, because I found it enlightening and encouraging. So one of the first themes was there's a scientific reality about what's happening with our environment and humans' impact on the environment. And then there's a cultural conversation about that, a lot of debate. And what's been encouraging is to see an increasing recognition that some of the people who don't want to acknowledge the science are much more comfortable engaging in a culture debate, a culture conversation. But the science is crystal clear. These are not abstract topics that humans are having an impact in the world. It's affecting the environment, and that environment is having a direct effect on the communities where humans live. And so while that may sound pretty basic, it's helpful for me to get my head around the fact when, I've got friends that are like, yeah, what about this and what about that? There's really no debate among scientists about what's happening with climate change and the impact of greenhouse gases on our world. The second thing I'd say is that, as a person who works in the business world, is that particularly for companies that are required to disclose to their investors material impacts, material risks, things that can have a material impact on the future revenues or profits of an organization. Well, climate is very clearly having a material impact. So my background is working in a lot of food companies. And if you're not sure about the impact of climate change on the key crops that affect the foods that you sell or the products that you make, well, you're a bad business person. So I think there's an opportunity to help people understand the fact that business people, including with all the downsides and the bad sides of business, they are recognizing that if you're not sure where the number one ingredient that your products are made with is going to come from in 10 years because of climate change, is that material to your investors? Absolutely it is. So different parts of the world are shifting their legislation and the reporting requirements to actually disclose how is environmental change affecting your employees, your supply chain, the pricing of your products, things that actually affect the economy. And that's also very encouraging because it drives a bit to the earlier point, which is people want to have a cultural debate. That's fine. But the science is actually quite clear, and therefore we need to be reporting on these things. And all of these elements really fall into the topic of negative externalities. So from an economist's perspective, externalities are things that you don't necessarily need to report on your balance sheet or your income statement. But if it's having a negative impact, as climate change is, on employees, on supply chains, and on companies, then it's important to report those things on the business. And so what I saw happening in this discussion and related discussions is a shift away from people trying to greenwash and, hey, I'm all about the environment because this is good for, whatever, tree hugging and that stuff, to getting much more practical about pollution. Is it good for the air and the water or animals or people? If it's not good for animals, people, the air, water, and the soil, then it's probably something we need to be taking note of in our communities. And so what I'm seeing is people shifting from some of the more greenwashy type of conversations, or CEOs or others like, yeah, I'm pro this and I'm pro that, I drive a Prius and whatever else. That's all fine, but people get much more hardcore about the facts as it relates to what's actually happening, because the facts, they won't always save us, but facts can definitely help point the direction of where we should go. So that was actually a very encouraging conversation. And some of the people that were on the panel a couple of nights ago when I was in Manhattan were ex-White House people that understand the intersection between public policy, environmental policy, and the health of humans and the environment. The other thing I wanted to hit on, which is really interesting to me, is talking about climate change through the lens of public safety and military risk, because there's a whole growing area of focus on the fact that the people around the world that do not have access to clean water, or they're being displaced because of either famine issues or conflict issues. The role of environmental disruption, particularly through climate change, is creating disruption to the very safety of countries and communities. And I find this may not be a new topic to a bunch of people on the call here, but as a guy that spent most of his life in business and not in issues around public safety, it's very interesting to hear this really rising up to say, okay, so you want to have a conversation about stability of populations. Well, if they don't have clean water, if there isn't clean air, you're going to have a massive disruption to the safety of communities. That safety of communities will then confer onto the state challenges and issues about public safety and risk management. So I think that this is it's a scary time, but I think that we are finally in a moment where some of the political or the cultural debates that people are having about whether climate change is real or not are going to get slayed, because the science is very real and the impacts. And people are feeling this in their communities. Just here in the United States, the amount of flooding, the amount of fires, it's kind of hard to ignore that stuff when it's affecting more and more communities, more people in more places that have not been experiencing environmental extremes. And so, again, it's a very scary and difficult and trying time. But I think we are at the moment where we can move from perhaps an outmoded cultural, in some ways, kind of ridiculous conversation that's based on, well, maybe climate change isn't real, and science has an opportunity to move forward a bit. So at any rate, sorry if I took up too much time there, but for me, seeing how people are morphing from just, greenwashing and, hey, we're good, and we use a little less plastic and we make the world a little less worse, to really the science of climate change taking over and driving public policy and people's perceptions about what they need to do, I find really encouraging, because when people ignore science, I find that incredibly discouraging. And I think we're moving into a time when ignoring science is becoming harder and harder to do. And that presents an opportunity for us. And perhaps we need to think a little bit about, or think a bit more about, how, when we think about the pillars of Xpresso Unicorn, how might this shifting discussion and public awareness about the elements of science in climate change and how people are experiencing that in their communities, so how might that influence the people that are on our podcast? How might that influence the philanthropic things that we're doing? So I'll pause there, but they're not totally separate conversations. I feel like they're more of a joined up conversation now around communities and the community impact of climate change.
Hey, Matthew, that's great. And you're right. Xpresso Unicorn lives in that space, right? And I think as time goes on, we'll see more and more of what we do, where we help support the awareness of, eco-friendly products, where our products are even more eco-friendly. And then we're also getting out in our community a lot more. And so that was a great rundown. I'm glad you were able to go to the event that you went to. I didn't even know that you had that opportunity. So thanks for sharing that. And so if I can take just a few minutes and have Derek kind of jump in, and going back to our list of things, and Matthew just hit on this too. So our list, right? So eat more plant-based foods. So that is a key piece to, I'm not telling everyone to become vegan, right? Because I will tell you, I love my meat. Okay. Sorry for any vegans out there that will see this, but but it's true that as we get into this space of trying to be more environmentally conscious, the things that we put in our body that now have to go, through the processing of our body and then discarded into, the porcelain tube that we have in all of our houses. And then it has to process through the system, right? Like all of that gets into that space of how much energy is being used to be able to process these things and ensure that we can break it up and then reuse that water, right? That just helped us move all of that stuff out. But also, what are we doing to our own bodies with the things that we are putting in our bodies that have additional ingredients in it that do not help our bodies function in the way that we need them to function most optimally, as well as just the things that sit within our body that causes issues later on down the line, whether we see it that, it comes out of our skin, whether we see it with the energy that we have within our bodies, or you name it. Everyone kind of gets that effect in a different way based off of what they fuel their bodies with. And so I want to turn it over to Derek, because he went through a journey and is still on a part of that journey right now, as it relates to eating more plant-based food, but also what he did is in his backyard. All right, Derek.
Hey, thanks, Angie. Yeah, and I love that we started with Matt with that very macro picture of sustainability and environmental sustainability in particular, and talking about the
Derek,
science.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
let me stop you real quick. You're breaking up for whatever reason.
That's so funny. I'm literally sitting in a parking lot. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna back up. It's like 10 feet.
I can hear Derek pretty good. He's breaking up for you, Colonel Pete.
He's breaking up for me. So if he's good, then I'll let him go. He's breaking up for me.
Yeah. How do you hear me now? I feel like this is like a T-Mobile
Yes.
commercial.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. All right. Great.
Repeat.
Hey, yes. So just to kind of get into my story. So I am vegan, right? I do eat a full vegan, no animal-based product. So I resemble those remarks. No, I literally resemble those remarks that you made. So I'm going to start off by saying, and I'm going to do this hopefully in about maybe 3 minutes or so. I'm going to start off by using a phrase I think everybody is familiar with. Faith without works is dead. And the reason I say faith without works is dead is because I think there is a lot of talk about, what we can do to be friendlier to our environment. There's a lot of stuff in the media. There's stuff all over, our televisions and magazines, all that kind of stuff. But the implementation of it, and I think there's even a lot of acknowledgement in some circles that there are things that need to be done, but then actually putting the faith into action is maybe where there's a bit of a rub. So I'm sorry. Am I still kind of going in and out? I apologize, guys, if so.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, awesome. So here's what we did, right? My daughter Grace, who actually is sitting just next to me here, a couple feet away, she actually went vegan back in 2020 or so, and after a year of cooking vegan meals and really enjoying, how good those things tasted, I also changed and became vegan. I don't think I was as gung-ho as her, and I did have a couple areas where I slipped. I loved my seafood, so I wanted to, we took a trip down to Savannah, Georgia, and after months and months of being vegan, I was like, oh no, I can't bypass this good seafood down here in Savannah. So I was like, I'm not going to be vegan for one meal, and that was a horrible mistake. But the seafood was good for those moments that it was in my mouth. But anyway, since then I have been fully vegan. She would probably say I'm not as vegan as she is. But regardless, it was an opportunity for us to do something, again, putting our faith in action, right, and reducing our carbon footprint, not consuming animals, not participating in this mass industry of animal production, animal slaughter, all that kind of stuff that goes on there. Now, I will tell you, I'm not some massive like tree hugger. I'm not out, with SPCA, trying to save every stray animal that's on the street. But I do see that there are areas that we can actively participate in order to contribute to environmental sustainability, contribute to ensuring that we do our part to help with this environment, help protect this earth that we've been given, which is we only have one earth. So we did start a garden in the backyard, which was an amazing, I don't know, adventure for us, right? Growing corn and beans and peppers and tomatoes and all kinds of good stuff in the backyard. The funny thing is we're talking about this in 2025 like it's some, what's the word, like this phenomenal thing that we're doing by having a garden. Like everybody did this, 60, 70 years ago. This was nothing, for a family to have a garden. But one thing that it did do for us that I don't think I really understood until that time was it allowed us to take back a little bit control of the food and the things that we were putting in our body. So we knew where that food was coming from. I knew that the soil that it was produced in was good, clean soil. I even produced can't say what's the name of it? Not mulch.
Compost.
Compost. Thank you. Did research on compost. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Compost research. Start our own 3-phase compost bin in the backyard. Applied that stuff to the garden, and we had some good food and a lot of really healthy worms too. So if you know anything about compost, worms are good. That's a good thing. It also allowed us to contribute to our neighborhood. So the neighbors across the fence on the 3 sides of us, they got to, feast on a lot of food because we were making far too much food than our family could consume. So it gave us an opportunity to connect with our neighbors, something that's not, done as readily in these days of internet and social media. We went a little bit further, right? About a year or so later, just kind of stepping away from the garden. We still had the garden and stuff going, but went through the house and found those energy hogs, right? Started unplugging things regularly. Those things, like, none of us care if there's a flashing light. There's no VCRs anymore. Nobody's dads are getting upset about the flashing light on a VCR anymore. So, we were unplugging things at night or when we left to go to school and to work in the morning. So that little light on the stove was not sitting there drawing energy all day. Had a power company come out and do an energy assessment of the home to see where there were energy leaks, to figure out how we could make the house more energy efficient. I mean, and they did that portion for free, right? They went through the house and figured out all the different areas, and they even installed certain things for free to make sure at the house that there were no drains from the air condition or the heater underneath doors and that kind of stuff, drafty areas. Went a little bit further than that as well, and invested about $40,000 in getting all brand new doors and windows, some 26 windows and 2 doors replaced on a house to make sure that it was as energy efficient as possible. Went a couple steps more and even bought some blinds, some energy efficient blinds, so that during the summertime we could zip those things up and completely block out the sun coming into the house during the day when everybody is gone and the house stays as cool as possible. Went solar, right? Absolutely. Jumped into the solar industry and made sure that we got solar on the house. So now I'm paying, 2 months out of the year, maybe I have a power bill because I live in an area not like Texas, like my brother Mac down there, right? I don't have all that sun up here in Northern Virginia. But there are just so many ways that we can help to lower our carbon footprint, to become a part of this process, just right here at a very micro level, to make sure that we're doing our part to sustain this one Earth as best as we can. So anyways, that's all I'll say there, Angie, and I'll turn it back over to you or any questions you guys may have.
That's pretty amazing and really inspiring. Those are so many steps. Thank you.
Yeah, what a great rundown. I want to give everyone a chance, like if there's something that you want to ask or have to say, let me know. I just want to hit quickly. Derek just hit a lot of these already. So leave that all or nothing mindset behind. So number one, what does that mean? Like a lot of people, again, they think about this environmental approach and they think that they have to do everything or they can't do anything, right? But the reality is, if you choose to do one of these seven, just choose one and then stick with it, right? You don't have to do all seven, or you don't have to do everything underneath the sun to make an impact. And so that's what the number one means, to do all, to leave the all or nothing behind. Reducing your food waste. So one of the things that I've learned throughout this research is that almost a third of the food that is created for human consumption is wasted. It's wasted, right? And so, how can we start reducing that waste? A bit of it is, hey, before that stuff goes bad in your refrigerator or on your counter, figure out something to make so that you can feed your family. Right. Because as you're thinking about, the amount of water it takes to grow the things that we're growing or to make the different things that we're making, like that is extensive. The other thing too, as we start thinking about like energy being lost, how many of you love gala apples, right? Or you love another type of apple or something that is from way across the country? Well, guess what? That has to get there some kind of way. So if we start using more local farms and eating from those areas, then it reduces the demand for things across the country, right? Which means that it will also reduce those individual organizations from bringing those in because they're not getting the demand signal. Okay, local economy, absolutely support it. Small business too, right? That's another thing that we definitely need to support. Number three was choose vacations closer to home. I got it. All of us love to go out and travel, but like staycations are great, or things that are right down the road are great. I think a lot of times we don't even venture into the spaces that are close to us because we're too busy trying to go overseas, or we're trying to go do something that's massive, when America is gorgeous. Right? Like there's still so many things that I need to see in America, and I probably need to put my frequent flyer miles, on the back burner for a little bit. Derek, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question or a thought with something I just said?
Yeah, I just wanted this may be a little far out for everybody, but I've actually looked into, and it's a growing market, but there's even a way to compost your body. So instead of I know, again, this is way out, so I'm sorry guys, but maybe I am a little on the extreme, but like there is a way to not spin, right, to not put bodies in a fiberglass casket down in the ground, right? That's just going to sit there and instead use your body, turn it into compost, and actually have it be a part of a forest that's being replenished. So, anyway, just want to throw that out there. Again, it's kind of extreme, but it's definitely something that I'm looking into for myself. My kids are like, that's not happening.
Hey, Professor Mac said you're close to tree hugging. Like that's tree hugging space.
I might be close, yeah.
Everything old is new again. That's the way it used to be when we perished. That's the way maybe it should be going forward.
Yeah, there were pine boxes that would then deteriorate, but then we found out that it would taint local water resources.
Yeah.
So you couldn't move away from it. Having family that's in the funeral home business. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's not even trying to take business away. It's just I know what goes into it, and then I know. I do have a couple of things that I'd like to provide an insight into. One is The idea of environmental sustainability for us, it it's a lifestyle. It's a cultural thing. I lived in Europe for 6 years, and we had the smallest refrigerator in our apartment, which meant that I had to buy things regularly, right? And then everything was in walking distance, so I'd walk down to the grocery store. I'd get maybe something for enough to make 2 days worth of meals. That way, nothing went to waste. And the reason why I mention this is the minute that our refrigerator looks even remotely empty, there's some space that you can see to the back, my kids will freak out. And it's like the end of the world. It's like, oh my God, we're so poor. We're so there's no food to eat. And it's a cultural thing. I think if we were to embrace this idea of minimalist or minimalism in regards to how we prepare our foods and in regards to how we shop, I think you find a space in there that provides the basis for some changes that would be very, very tangible. The other side of this is it's a lot of this we just tend to fall into. We don't think about it. I put in here earlier that when I'm gardening out back, I often call it old people stuff, just because of the connotation to gardening, right? If you say, "Hey, I'm gardening," people are like, "Oh, you're doing old people stuff." And what I found is that I find it enjoyable. I find it meditative. I find it valuable in the sense that I am providing food for my table that I grew myself. And there's nothing like having food that has actual love in it. And I'm not saying anywhere you go to, those local grocery stores or those local farms don't have any love in it, but you have cultivated something with your energy that then provides sustenance for your family and your neighbors. And we've done that I did it at West Point. I did it in Georgia. I did it in Texas. I've done it because my family has done it. And then we did it so much, we grew so much stuff, and we're passing so many things to the neighbors, like you said, Derek, that my wife brought this idea, or she's bringing this idea to the HOA, like, hey, we've got this entire green space that we're not doing anything with. How can we use this for something that can benefit the community and provide, this space in which we can, in fact, develop community, right? And so I think there's more to it than just the sustainability portion of it. There is the act of doing something that you love, and then that is transferred into the food and sustenance that you provide for your family. But there's also an issue of how do you develop community through this? And when you develop community, you then reach out to people, and then they can see what's happening, and then hopefully sparks this chain reaction in which people see value in doing it versus just taking the shortcut, which is go to the HEB and get your apples or your tomatoes or whatever.
Hey, Mac,
Mac, one of the things, I'm sorry, Derek. One of the things, and I saw Brian's note where he mentioned access is success, right? And so you and I had this discussion before about food desert. So some of our lower socioeconomic areas, they don't have the access to getting fresh produce like that, or they live in on the 12th floor of a high rise where the elevator is always broken, right? And so as you start thinking about that, that gets into a space of now, as we talk about Xpresso Unicorn and we talk about the poles of our society, that's one of those poles, right? Rural America is another pole. And so how do we affect those areas? And this, it's really just food for thought as we continue to look at how does Xpresso Unicorn move in the future? How do we help support within this space of environmental sustainability that also, like you said, Mac, it's about community building too. Okay, so how do we do that, later on down the line in these areas that don't necessarily have that access to these great ideas that we're talking about right now? Derek, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I put it in the chat. I think what Mac was saying is really it's just a community cultivation, right? We're using the process of cultivating food to cultivate community at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
One of the
that's
other
great.
I'm sorry to interrupt. One of the powerful, one of the simple and powerful parts of this is that to a lot of people I found is that discussions about global warming, the atmosphere, these UN targets of 1.5 degrees. That's really abstract to people, and some people aren't sure what really they like. I think I get it, but I don't know if I get it. Food that came from the garden right here is not abstract. People get it. Everything Mac was saying and everything Derek's saying. And so I think this idea of making things tangible or leaning into the tangible is one of the best ways to get people, because people may be like, I'm not sure, is it 1.5 degrees Celsius or the melting of polar ice caps? I've never seen these things. I get it, but I saw it in my science class. Versus like, this food here didn't have to go on a truck. No gas was burned delivering this food. Here it is. There's something there also that's more tangible for people to understand their role in a good, clean, and a healthy environment is a good, clean, and a healthy community. And I think sometimes we do ourselves a disservice when we start talking about things that are global in nature, which are important, but it's hard for the everyday person to get their head around stuff. They're like, wait a minute, what? So just a thought that both Mac and Derek's comments sparked for me.
Another piece of that too, Matthew, as I look at Derek and I have a picture of him in his garden, when I tell you this was a beautiful garden, it was beautiful, it was massive, it was green, right? And it was just lovely, and I was in awe, right? So I think also when people start thinking about, hey, growing my own food or growing my own herbs or whatever the case is, like they have to do it on this larger scale. And in reality, it starts small. So you live in an apartment, like use some small pots and, plant you some tomatoes or plant you something that's easy to kind of work with. And then from there, you may grow and get you a box or something like that. But like start small, just do something. Another thing that's out there too is I'm probably gonna jack this up. What is it? The plants grown on water, the hypoponics. Is that what it's called? Um, I'm not a big fan of it.
Hydroponics.
Hydroponics. Okay. Not a huge fan of it, but I know it's improved since the first time that I tried it, which was years and years ago when that technology was just coming on board. But that's another thing where like those options are out there where you can buy it for I think less than $100 at this point if you really wanted to do a bunch of different things. So those are some other options if people were looking for, well, how do I grow, but I live in this small place? Okay. So let me finish up the 1 through 7. And so number 4 is shut down hidden power hogs. And so unplugging your microwave if you can, right? Most of our microwaves are stuck over top of our stove where you can't get behind it, but maybe the oven, right? You can unplug the oven if that plug is out. Maybe you can unplug your chargers when you leave. It's a number of things that we can do. Turning lights off when you leave the room, and then caulking right around your windows, ensuring that you're not losing energy from your house, from your doors, your windows. Maybe even issues with the roof. So being able to look at that and doing those updates as needed. And Derek kind of hit on some of the things that he's already done. Eat more plant-based foods. I think Derek killed that already, so we don't really need to dive into that much more. But meat alternatives. That's one of the things that they have in here. Obviously, some of that is looking to see what makes sense with your taste buds and all of that. But that is one of the options that they at least have in here to be able to reduce kind of that processing both within your body and external in factories. Okay. Seal up the energy sealer, so that gets back to the caulking and everything. And then when in doubt, leave it out. So do your homework about what can and can't be recycled. And so the other thing is looking at, when you put oil and things within the recycling bin, like that can mess up like everything within that single source recycling. That's why they tell you to clean it out first, or to not even put it in there if it's full of oil, because it can affect the other recycling. And so just realizing what you're putting into that recycling bin when you do it, or else it's all for naught. Okay. And then you said don't forget about pollinators. Do you want to hit on that quickly, Matt?
Yeah, it's this idea that you need and I'm gonna reference Derek's tree hugging comments. I'm not a tree hugger by any stretch of the imagination, but I do eat a lot of honey, and we do see the value in making sure that you have the right insects around to in fact help you grow your garden. And so what we do is we put pollinator flowers around the front yard, and we have them all in the backyard. And God forbid, I think my wife has spent about $5,000 on just plants. So I know we ain't moving no time soon. You see plants in the back in my background. This is just kind of how we are. We've got plants all. Damn it, I am a tree hugger. All right, but anyway, we do have plants all over the place because we know what provides us what serves as air filters, shade, pollination that drives production for our gardens. So we just make sure that we're constantly adding to the environment in a way that is beneficial and helps us grow the things that we want to grow in order to feed the family.
Perfect. Perfect, perfect. So, folks, we are a bit past our time that I said, and I should have known that we couldn't go 30 minutes, but but it's all good. We've had a pretty good conversation. And I think the biggest thing or biggest takeaway from here is we can do or we can have impact within our own space, within our own families, to start teaching our kids what right looks like as it relates to taking care of our bodies, taking care of our planet, and ensuring that we're also positively influencing our communities. Okay. And so that's huge for me with a daughter who's going to have kids at some point, and those kids will have kids, right? We want to leave them an earth that is sustainable, right? That they have years and years to enjoy it. And so one of the things that I'm going to ask you guys to do is, today was our call to action to have this conversation. On the 28th of June, I am asking everybody to have a day of action. Okay. And so that day of action, we're looking at the 28th of June between 10 to 11 a.m. Okay. Based off of your time zone, that you go out and you impact your community positively. So what we're looking at doing is, at least for me, I've already got an approval from my apartment complex to put up flyers and to bring people out from 10 to 11 to go out and pick up trash within our neighborhood. And so that is the way that we are going to address positively impacting our environment. And so that is going to be my ask of the community. And I have the entire apartment complex management staff that is behind it. And so I would ask for you guys to either do the trash pickup, or if there's something else that you're able to coordinate, please do that, but share that with me, so that I can post it and let people know like what you're doing within your communities, and then also take pictures while you're out there and you're impacting your community. And please do wear your Hope Curation shirt. All right. Any thoughts, any questions as it relates to that? Okay. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I will catch up
Thank
with
you.
all of you throughout the week. And I just appreciate your commitment to Xpresso Unicorn and your diligence. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Love you
Thank you.
guys.
Have a good Father's Day weekend. Good Father's Day
Yes, have
weekend.
a good Father's
Thank you.
Day.
Hey, all of you as well. Hey,
Oh
take
yeah,
care.
thanks a lot. Have a good one for sure. Happy
All
Father's
right,
Day.
everyone. All right. Yeah. All right. Take care,
care.
everyone.